I've loved avoidance in my lifetime, not just in others, but in myself. I didn't know it then, but I was an avoidant. I could love deeply, but I didn't know how to let love in. I kept connection, surface level. I confused independence with strength. I protected myself from the very thing I was craving, and it was lonely, so lonely. Being an avoidant doesn't mean you don't love, it means you're afraid to be loved. I could love deeply, but I couldn't let people love me. And I didn't know how to receive it. I didn't know how to stay and be comfortable with connection. I didn't know how to feel safe in intimacy. And for a long time, I didn't realize that what I was actually doing was running. And I protected myself from closeness, not because I didn't want it, but because I felt unsafe. And it wasn't until I was in my mid 40s that I realized something powerful. I could either keep guarding myself or I could finally learn how to let love in. So, this episode isn't just for people who know they're an avoidant, it's for people dating them. It's for women trying to figure out why they feel so hard. It's for men who crave connection but shut down when it gets too real. It's for you if you're tired of the chase, tired of the fear, and ready to love, and ready to have real love, starting with yourself. Let's talk about avoidance and let's talk about healing and let's talk about how to stop running and finally feel safe being loved. So let's start with what is avoidant attachment? It's just self protection. And it's your nervous system saying, if I get close, I might lose myself, I might get hurt, or I might just get rejected. Avoidants aren't cold, they aren't selfish, and oftentimes they're the most sensitive people in the room. But somehow along the way, they learned that intimacy wasn't safe, that closeness meant pain, that being vulnerable meant being abandoned. They build walls and they stay close enough to love, but never all the way in. And they crave connection and pull away the second it actually gets real. And they'll say, I miss you. And then they'll go silence. They'll light up when they're around you, but can't talk about the future. They love you, but they won't let you love them. Sound familiar? It did for me. Avoidance starts somewhere, usually in our childhood. Maybe you had emotionally unavailable parents. Maybe you were kind of the kid that was told, stop crying, be a good girl, be a good boy. Maybe you were rewarded for performance, but not for presence. Maybe love felt inconsistent, so you learned not to rely on it. Then you kind of fast forward to adulthood and, maybe you've been through a divorce, maybe someone betrayed you, maybe you lost yourself in a relationship. And all those moments reinforce that belief. It's safer to love from a distance, or maybe I don't deserve love at all. That belief is the root of avoidance. It's a lie. I mean, it's a complete lie. There was a time I truly believed being independent was the same thing as being strong, and that needing somebody meant I was weak, and that love was a risk, I, I really couldn't afford, which is so lonely. And I was really good at loving people, but I was terrible at letting people love me because that would mean letting them see me, the soft parts of me, the messy parts, the real parts. I would stay hyper focused on my career. I would stay in control and I'd stay alone, even when I would actually need someone. And eventually I realized I'm not protecting myself anymore. I'm actually just lonely. And that's when I knew something had to change. I want to share my story of being an avoidant. And I didn't think I was an avoidant until after my divorce when I was in my next relationship. and realized, wow, I really was an avoidant. How it showed up in my marriage is that I was always super independent. I never needed him. I was always in control. Needing somebody would have been a weakness. I would have said my marriage, I felt like I loved him and I thought we had a great marriage, but I was pretty lonely because I didn't let him see me and love me. And I realized when I was dating this guy, so we ended up being friends for a whole entire year. I was going through my divorce. He was helping me. And so I always had real conversations. He saw me at my worst. And so I was able to be super vulnerable, share things with him. And so we, got close in that relationship. And, there's just no judgment. There was no expectation, I guess. So it was easy to be me. And I wasn't looking for anything. I wasn't trying to control anything. I was letting this person into seeing who I was. What I realized during that relationship was he would always say to me, "Gosh, you're really uncomfortable and you talk in circles when it comes to your feelings." And I think with his personality, he just would constantly ask me questions that had to do with how I was feeling and what I was thinking. And, eventually over time, he broke down all of my walls. And as he did that, I became softer and softer. And as I fell in love with him, what I realized is I was always super strong and independent and had it figured out. And now I wanted to need him. I wanted him to need me. I wanted him to be seen. I wanted to be seen. I realized my whole life, the missing connection and why I couldn't feel love in the way that I think love was meant to be was I realized, wow, like I have loved so hard people around me my entire life. But I was like, I have never let someone love me. And because he wanted my walls down and would keep pushing and tell me you have walls, and it was like he was mirroring that back to me. I at some point was like, I guess I do. As I kind of broke down those walls and trusted him, I let those walls down and I was able to let him love me. And the more I did it and I let him in and I let him see me, and I could then become so feminine and girly. I was always girly on the outside, but I'd be silly. I would have never been silly. I was the girl in control, structured, not flowy. But he would make me want to dance, be silly, be a kid, do anything without, thinking about it. I was able to just be. And I guess it was like it got easier and I loved loving him in a different way where it was almost like that full circle because I could feel it in a completely different way where when you love somebody and you love hard, it's very lonely to not receive that back. And so that is my experience, in my 40s after a divorce and dating someone was my whole life. I guess I didn't realize I didn't let someone love me until then. And once I was able to do that, it opened me up to all sorts of amazing feelings. Once you realize, wow, like I deserve love and I am lovable and I am worthy. And as much love as I give to others, I deserve that back too. If you're sitting there and you feel lonely and you feel numb, you might be an avoidant and think about it, love in a way of like, I love people, but do I really let people love me, like see me for who I am? Am I able to be myself and be silly or be funny or whoever you want to be? Do you allow yourself to be seen or do you avoid that? Because if you're avoiding your authentic self and the closeness, you can't feel love in the way that it's meant to be felt. And it's a pretty incredible thing that I can say I finally just got to experience. I want people to understand avoidance and avoidant attachment styles so that you can actually feel the way that love should feel and maybe have a really close relationship either with your current one or your next one and feel love in a completely different way because I'll never want to go back to being an avoidant. It is super, super lonely. I want to explain what avoidance can look like in a relationship so you can understand it, because avoidance can be sneaky, actually. You can say you want love, but you avoid intimacy. You want deep connection, but you keep things casual. You fear rejection, but you reject first. And you fantasize, about closeness, but you push people away when they actually get close. And you keep chasing people who are unavailable because deep down you're unavailable too. And if you're dating an avoidant, you probably feel like you're always the one chasing, always trying to prove yourself, always trying to prove you're safe, always hoping they'll finally choose you. It's really exhausting actually for both people in a relationship, because everyone is scared, but no one feels safe. I'm going to repeat that, because everyone feels scared, but no one feels safe. And so it's unfortunate because both people probably want it. They just don't know how to overcome their fear. We all know to make real change in our life, we have to take action with it. I mean, we won't get anywhere if we don't do anything. And so this next part is really, how do you stop being an avoidant so you can actually apply it to your life and move towards not being an avoidant if you choose to? For me, this is kind of how I was able to move forward. It's something you have to work on. It's not going to be something you wake up, because most of us, like me, I had very thick brick walls around me pretty much my whole entire life. And I had somebody obviously help knock them down in a relationship. So this takes work, but I'm telling you, if you feel lonely in a relationship, it could be possibly that you're an avoidant, because you're not letting someone love you back with the love that you're giving. I know in my personal life, I never want to go back to being an avoidant. I recently got into another relationship with an avoidant. And so I'm not an avoidant. I went into this relationship very open, wanting connection. He talked about it very openly of, I'm an avoidant. I'm probably going to self-sabotage. And it was actually heart-wrenching to hear somebody say, this is how I'm going to ruin it. We talked about being an avoidant and why is he an avoidant? And I told him how I was at one point and how lonely it is. He prepared me that this is who he was. And, it was hard because I thought, do I really want to get into a relationship with an avoidant? But because he was self-aware, he's read books, he knows he's an avoidant, but what he didn't have was a roadmap of like, okay, well, I'm an avoidant. What do I do with that? How do I stop being an avoidant? I thought, wow, a lot of people might feel the same way. Like, there's a lot of books, there's a lot of statements, but like, how do you really stop being an avoidant? So let's dive in and let's talk about the how. So if you're an avoidant or you love someone who is, here's a roadmap to shift. First, you have to kind of, let's call it name it to tame it. And you got to write it down and say it out loud. And I know that sounds weird, but you have to kind of say, like, I have an avoidant pattern. I want you to write it down and say it, because you got to own it, because that's the self-awareness part if you really want to have change. And then you have to ask yourself, where did this come from and who taught me that love was supposed to be scary? And when you name the pattern, you take your power back. Step 2 is you got to feel it. And when you feel the urge to pull away, you have to pause. So here's the thing, for real change to happen, you're going to be uncomfortable. So you're going to have to learn to become uncomfortable to get comfortable. Because like me, it was years of living this way. And so it's really uncomfortable. But I assure you, when you're on the other side, it is amazing to feel real connection. And so when you feel the urge to pull away, don't shut down, just sit in it, let it pass. And then ask yourself, am I protecting myself or am I running from love? And number 3, take tiny intimacy risk. They can be tiny. You don't have to do grand gestures, just maybe a vulnerable text, ask for help, which I know is hard for me or was. Share something personal that you've never shared. Let somebody know how you really feel and tell them what you need from them to feel love. It's okay to ask for what you need. It could be, hey, I need, for me personally, like, I need good morning messages if I'm dating someone. I like to hear voice. I'm a very passionate person. I think I need to hear someone's voice. As you continue to do it, it gets easier and easier and you get stronger and stronger, but you have to do them. Number 4, you have to regulate your nervous system. Avoidance live in the state of like hyper vigilance, and you're always, and I can speak again from experience, you're always ready to run. So learn how to calm your body when you want to actually run. You can breathe, you can meditate, but you got to keep yourself grounded. This goes back to what I said at the beginning is like, you're going to have to be uncomfortable to get comfortable, and you have to be up for that challenge to make these changes. Ask yourself, what does safety feel like in my body? Because you got to feel it in your body because of our nervous system. The last thing is surround yourself with safe people. You don't heal alone. Let people in who see you, support you, and challenge you so you can stay present. And, to me, I have a tribe of friends and different relationships that keep me grounded, and they know who I want to be and who I don't want to go back to. And my closest friends, they know now I love in a complete, they see me crying, asking for help, or they see a completely different version of me based on that relationship I had. It changed me. It's like I let people love me now. I have self-love, I have self-respect, but I'm good with receiving love, and I have a lot of love to give, but I want love back. It feels warm and fuzzy, and it feels so good, and it's so not lonely anymore. So now that we have our 5-step, like a roadmap for how to stop being an avoidant. If you love an avoidant and you're on the other side, like me, I was an avoidant. And then now I'm in a relationship, let's say with an avoidant. This is for that person who's like, okay, I've done my work. I'm no longer an avoidant, but I'm in a relationship or I'm in a marriage with an avoidant. What can I do? You can't fix them, okay? You can't love them into healing, but you can actually be honest with them. So you can say, I care about you, but I need consistency. You could say, I see you fear, but I know what I deserve. I'm here to be with you, but you have to show up. And you actually have to mean it. And you don't want to wait for someone to become ready either. And you have to have boundaries and teach them how to be safe. Think about your own self. When you were an avoidant, they have these walls up. And the biggest thing is they're scared. And you know what that's like. If you were on the other side of it, you were scared when you had walls up to let somebody see you and someone love you. Remember, the avoidant is they love loving, but they are afraid of being loved. And that is just because they're afraid to be seen and they don't feel like they're lovable. And so they need help. Okay. But you also have to have boundaries, because if you're on the other side and you've done all this work to not be an avoidant, you don't want to go back to being an avoidant because you're getting rejected and not being heard, and your needs aren't being met. So you have to be clear, like, I have boundaries, but I'm willing to help you feel seen, and that you deserve love and all of that, but like, you got to meet me here. And so those are some of the things. Make sure you're talking to them about the exact same thing that you went through and how you got to the other side. And you can't fix them. They have to do their work, and they have to be wanting to do their work. Avoidance is a chapter of your life, hopefully. It's not your identity. It protected you once, but you don't need to be that person anymore if you actually don't want to. You deserve love that feels safe and real and grounded and freeing. What's scarier? I know I was so lonely being an avoidant, and honestly, spending the rest of your life with surface level relationships when what we really want is a deep connection and closeness. We all crave connection and intimacy and vulnerability. We're just scared to get there. And so let this be a wake up call that you're not broken, you're just afraid. And that's okay. I mean, I was the same way. I think I still have to remind myself at times, right? I think it's easy to maybe want to go back, but I know how I feel now that I'm on the other side. You don't have to stay there. You can open up. You deserve love. You're not broken. You're not scared. You're okay. And you can love without feeling trapped. And you can let someone love you without losing yourself. And you can write a new chapter starting now. And avoidance might have been a chapter in your story, but that is not how it needs to end. This is your chapter, and you get to choose how the story goes. Until next time, your chapter's your story.